The disagreement, especially about like the Israel-Palestine stuff, isn't about morality. It's about facts. Like, it's about the factual disagreement about whether or not a genocide is happening. It's not a moral philosophy disagreement about whether or not genocide is evil. Everyone thinks genocide is evil.
My grandmother and several other people listened to him and took the vaccine and died. So yeah, I don't trust.
What? What? What are we? This is not a Democrat. This is supposed to be anti-Biden Democrats. This is not a Democrat. This is a either like really unhinged like left-wing anarchist or just a Republican pretending to be an anti-Biden Democrat.
But when they spoke of being pro-freedom, being pro-rights, and actually seemed like they meant it, I grew up.
Dude, Democrats not speak of being pro-freedom, and it literally Kamala Harris's first ad that she just put out like today or yesterday was about freedom. Like,
he's always tried to be friends with the guys on the other side and try and
the guys on the other side here also includes progressives. Like, he made deals with progressives because he wanted AOC and Bernie to support his re-election campaign.
Not the UN, but the ICC has agreed that it is a genocide.
First of all, not the ICC. The ICC didn't rule. That's the ICJ ruled on it, and that's not what they ruled.
Like, our voting system should not be like the lesser of two evils. Like, what old senile person do we want sitting in that chair more? You know what I mean? Like, I want a candidate I can rally behind.
Any candidate that you can rally behind is going to be someone that I'm voting for as the lesser of two evils. If you're rallying behind Bernie Sanders, well, I don't agree with a lot of Bernie Sanders' more progressive points, so I'm going to be voting for him as the lesser of two evils.
Swing votes lead to something like Donald Trump coming in. It's going to be worse under Trump than it is under Biden.
And then also, there's the potential that the Democrats draw the wrong lesson from that and say, hey, we're not appealing to people. We need to move more to the right. This video is a little outdated by now. Pro-Biden versus anti-Biden Democrats. A few developments have happened that make this video no longer super relevant. But, you know, we're just going to pretend like it didn't. We're just going to pretend like it didn't.
Biden is a moral man. If you agree with this prompt, step forward.
Are we really this divided? Nobody in that. Oh, some people stepped over.
The definition of moral is kind of, it's a little arbitrary because, like, you know, saying somebody is a moral man, we all have morals. My morals may not be the same as somebody else's morals, you know what I mean? I would say that I think Biden thinks of himself as a moral man, so.
Yeah, I was piggybacking off of that real quick. I was just going to say, I think, yeah, it's kind of an interesting question in this context, but I do sort of see Biden as like a, you know, an old politician in that sense, where it's like, you know,
he's
at the ice cream shop, and he's out walking his dog. Like, I think there's some truth to that image of Biden, but I also think that's not necessarily like the most important thing when you have that much power. So,
I feel like when we, I'm sorry, do you want to, I was going to say, I think when we talk about morals, we should talk about intention. And I think that if you say he's a moral man, you're saying that he has good intentions with what he's doing. And I think that matters more importantly than what you might consider him doing that he says publicly that we go back on or it's turning out poorly. I think that when we talk about moral, if he's a moral guy, we should look at his intentions.
I don't think intentions matter.
That's true. I mean, I think intentions kind of mostly matter there. Like, I'm assuming, or sorry, I know, because I skipped to this part in the video where the Biden is supporting a genocide. I didn't watch it. I just I watched all four of them step forward, and I said I have to save this for stream content. Biden obviously at least thinks he's doing the right thing by supporting Israel. I don't think Trump I don't think Trump cares about doing the right thing. He just cares about what's best for him. So on the spectrum of moral or not moral, definitely leaning more towards Biden.
Quite as much as impact.
Although this is just pro versus anti-Biden Democrat. But
people talk about Biden and the morality in the circle as a presentation of image, and I agree, everybody tries to present themselves as being a moral person, or at least conforming to what they think morality looks like. But I think that something that speaks highly of Biden's character is the Republicans tried to demonize him for leaked texts, and that wasn't part of a presentation of an image. And if you read those texts between him and his son, he honestly just seems like a loving father that's like trying his best, is encouraging his son to like.
Oh, that's another thing. Yeah, every single time Republicans got mad at him for the Hunter Biden stuff, or like during when they were investigating Hunter Biden, they had to dig up all the text messages and phone calls between Hunter and Biden. I understand if you like it did, like some of those texts did prove that Hunter Biden was a drug addict, but like Joe Biden just comes off as like one of the most like loving people. Like when you see those texts, like it's so, yeah, it literally is just Biden loving his son. Like it's literally, Hunter, I love you more than anything. You need to get help for your drug addiction. Have you guys seen what's the most beautiful thing you've ever heard?
You know, back in 1972, on December 18th, there was an accident. It killed my wife and daughter. My two sons survived after being badly injured. We just moved into a lovely old home. I was trying to decide how we could possibly stay in the home because it brought back so many memories. I had an old 67 Corvette. My son loved to ride in it. And I was driving down this country road. This cow jumps over the fence. And I said, look at that. And he goes, wow, Daddy. And he turns around with both hands in my face and said, Daddy, I love you more than the whole world.
What did it?
Like all the text messages make Republicans look insane, especially if you don't know the context behind it, because they're literally like showing loving messages between like father and son. And they're like, can you believe this? Can you believe it? Can you believe they're so corrupt?
From the beginning of time, he has had no morals. He was against the segregation of schools. He supports genocide. There's not a single person on this planet.
Yeah, the second thing, he supports genocide. Oh man, can't wait to vote for 2028. True. Dude, I would too. I would do it.
That has good morals, that supports genocide of innocent children. Innocent Palestinians have been murdered for over 9 months, and he continuously sends money to Israel every single day. Nobody with morals funds genocide, period, point blank discussion. Next topic.
I actually have an injection right there because I thought that would come up. I too was hesitant to come. As you saw, I was the last person, and it was primarily for that issue. And I will never try to justify genocide because there is no justification.
Oh, even she thinks it's genocide?
However, I
Oh
will
my
say,
God.
morality, first of all, I don't know if I'm in a position to judge another person's on a spiritual level morality. However, outward facing and giving his platform and his position, I will say he does present, aside from that particular topic we'll address in a second, an outward-facing image, and let's all address the elephant in the room in juxtaposition to the opposition, right? That being said, I will never, ever support someone who supports genocide.
I think we have to be careful because we can do the moral relativism. The reality is there is a shared morality that we agree should exist in the United States. So I think the question of well, yes, but it is there.
We don't currently have a shared morality when it's such a polarizing topic.
No, I would say we absolutely have some form of shared morality. It manifests in law. There are things that we believe that are criminally prosecutable in this country that all of us agree roughly should be illegal. And then there are things beyond that, like lying or I guess cheating on a partner, that we would say, well, these things are also immoral, but they're not illegal. But there is going to be some shared moral basis. Nobody would say that a Nazi is running for president, but he's probably a moral guy because he's moral insofar as Nazis are concerned. I think when we talk about the morality of a candidate, we're generally appealing to our understanding of like a shared moral, roughly the shared moral foundation we would expect somebody to come into leadership positions in the United States.
I think with simplified issues, it's
Also, I mean, the disagreement, especially about like the Israel-Palestine stuff, isn't about morality. It's about facts. Like, it's about the factual disagreement about whether or not a genocide is happening. It's not a moral philosophy disagreement about whether or not genocide is evil. Everyone thinks genocide is evil. It's just there's a factual disagreement as to whether or not that is happening. I trust Biden with everything based. I mean, I trust the Biden administration more than most administrations in history. Like, Biden himself is all, but I think his administration, his cabinet's been pretty good. They seem to have done pretty good, especially the NLRB. The based NLRB pro-union decisions have been good.
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to trust the Biden administration. It's, I mean, can any of you guys think of like lies or I don't know? People bring up things like they misled us with Dr. Fauci or something weird, but I've been following the Biden administration pretty close.
Well, that's all left-leaning people. Hopefully they don't bring up COVID. Don't bring up COVID. Don't do it. I don't want to do it.
I haven't seen any examples of them trying to purposefully mislead us. May have gotten something wrong here or there, but that's why I trust the Biden administration. You got to trust somebody at some point.
I think with everything that's been passed from the IRA to the America Rescue Plan to the infrastructure bill, like they have a purpose to pass big policies that are helping American people. The one thing I don't like is statements like Kamala Harris that go against the Biden administration when it comes to Israel and Gaza.
This is an incredibly complicated issue, and it's one that has to be handled with a lot of political care. It's true even for Ukraine and Russia as well. I think that the Biden administration has straddled the line pretty well on both of those issues, way better than I would have honestly expected them to. So.
Yeah, I think the Trump administration caused
You did not like that.
in our institutions, and it's bled over to the Biden administration a bit. So I'll be curious to hear what these guys who don't trust the Biden administration have to say.
You shouldn't trust anybody in government ever. Certain times they might have a policy.
Phenomenal argument. Okay.
Good, but no matter what, if somebody offers them, hey, $2 billion, they'll take it. A Biden administration cannot be trusted. Anybody that supports genocide cannot be trusted. Anybody that supports...
Oh my God. She's going to bring it up every time.
Taking away... You think that he's for our rights, but he's really not. They're trying to ban regular cars. They're trying to ban regular planes by 2030. They're literally stripping away our rights, just like the Republicans are trying to.
Do you trust any... What do you trust?
Okay, when I hear anti-Biden Democrats, she said they're trying to ban regular cars. Does she not think that it's probably important to try to incentivize electric vehicles? I don't even think they're trying to ban them. They're just trying to incentivize them. Like, there's just a tax credit for getting electric vehicles, and they're investing money into building charging stations. Does she think that's a bad thing? Is she against that?
If we tease out what specific criticisms do you have like that are unique to Biden as opposed to just all?
Let's see. He speaks of COVID that was created. Fauci was part of that, like he was the AIDS scamdemic. My grandmother and several other people listened to him and took the vaccine and died. So yeah, I don't trust.
What? What? What are we? This is not a Democrat. It's supposed to be anti-Biden Democrats. This is not a Democrat. This is a either like really unhinged like left-wing anarchist, or just a Republican pretending to be an anti-Biden Democrat. Like what?
After my grandmother, who's never been sick ever a day in her life, got a COVID vaccine and died.
I think if you're going to bring up the AIDS pandemic, then I'm going to bring up the...
Fauci. Go ahead.
Yeah, but I would say that I will give Biden credit on the federal emergency against monkeypox.
Keep giving him credit. Why?
Well, you just said...
People. That's all he's doing to the population, baby.
You just said that,
no virus has ever been isolated ever in life. It's all been alive since.
Let's let him respond.
Okay, you're right. But I'm just
I've only heard anti-Biden.
Which is
Yeah,
very simple, very
can't
quick.
read more
I
than
think
3
it's very,
words.
I don't
Or
really
more
trust
than 2
any
words.
administration in
I don't trust them to protect us from what happens if Biden loses. So like I'm not pro-Biden specifically because I don't see enough being done to protect us if Republicans win. Like there's Project 2025 that they're planning. They have all these plans and I don't see them talking enough about, okay, well, they have these plans. So worst case scenario, here's what we have planned to stop that if it happens.
I mean, they've started doing messaging about Project 2025, and I mean, there's not a ton that they can do because Biden doesn't have the House right now, and the Senate has a really slim majority. So
I personally I'm a person who likes to have fail-safes. I don't see that happening. I didn't see that with the Supreme Court failing to codify Roe versus Wade for how many years? How many years? Why was that not?
I don't understand. Is the Supreme Court codifying Roe v. Wade?
Sorry,
Congress.
Congress.
You mean
thank
Congress?
Yes.
Well, they didn't have the votes. Take 60 votes in the Senate unless you have to get rid
yeah, and they didn't have
of the
that.
filibuster.
But I'm saying though, like we had all of the time. We had so many times where we were in power as Democrats.
We don't have 60 votes in the Senate. We can't pass a bill.
Why? No, I mean, why don't we have the 60 votes? Why are we not
People aren't
working
voting.
hard?
People are not voting for Democrats.
But I think a healthy level of skepticism is important for everything. But when people say things like, I don't trust anybody that works at the FBI, I don't trust anybody that works in this administration, I don't trust anybody that works at the FDA, there are like millions of people, depending on how local or federal you want to get with the government, that are employed by the government. Most people are just trying to do what they think is
For
right.
sure.
Most people that are employed by the government trying to do what they think is right. This idea that all of them are like kind of like colluding against the American public to harm you in some way. Not that I don't think anybody's expressed that view exactly, but I know that there seems to be some undercurrent where people will like distrust anybody that says that they work for government. Like most people are ordinary citizens.
No, for sure. And I have family in politics too, so I would agree with you. But it's just the sense that I guess a better way I would answer this question is I don't implicitly trust them just because like they're Biden's administration.
You said
And I just don't pass
My grandmother, I want to share, my grandmother was the first black NAACP president in her era in New Jersey. She's worked with a lot of different presidents. She got to meet Obama. She took a lot of pride in seeing Obama elected. And I've followed her because like I said, she was one of the first black NAACP presidents. I study history. I study her beginnings. I still study where she started. And I've seen what the Democrat Party has come from then to now. And I don't like it. I've always been pro-Democrat.
Trusted her.
I mean, I trust her because she just
From Obama to now, from Obama to Obama's vice president, is that really that dramatic of a change? What?
wanted equality. She fought and worked with different presidents so blacks can get jobs, so they can have the same opportunities. And she had a doctorate. She would talk her shit, but she had morals that she wanted equality for everybody. She wasn't taking money like, oh, somebody's big pharma, whoever's giving me this money, I'm going to support this, or support genocide, or support this. She had in her heart that she wanted equality, and that's what she stood for everybody, primarily people of color, but for everybody. She wanted everybody to have the same rights. And I've seen the administration just go down, the more we trust them.
Can I ask you, what keeps you a Democrat?
Like I said, I'm starting to lean to the independent side. I like the original views of, not the original, because you know the Democrats and Republicans switched at some point.
Yeah.
But when they spoke of being pro-freedom, being pro-rights, and actually seemed like they meant it, I grew up.
Dude, Democrats not speak of being pro-freedom, and it literally Kamala Harris's first ad that she just put out like today or yesterday was about freedom. Like
Studying history because of her place in politics and seeing how the administration has went from 60s, 70s to now. My grandmother, I have a picture of her and Coretta Scott King. She was really, really a part of the movement. And to see what the Democrat Party has become, I want to stay a Democrat because of her work and continue her legacy, but I just don't like what it's become. I hope that I could be a change, hopefully carry her legacy on in some way eventually, but it has to be a collective effort. It can't just be me.
But that's also another thing that I've heard, particularly women of color, say like that turns them away from the Biden administration, is that like not only do they not feel represented, but they're so fucking sick of everybody coming in and like expecting black women to fix it. Like that's just what I've heard.
We can apply that to a lot of things. I think that there's some things that you've said that I agree with, and there's some things that this says that I agree with. And I still can't take a seat because I'm very like facts-based. And the thing is, even though what I said I stand on, I still can't dispute the fact that it is at an all-time high under the Biden administration.
Yeah,
I just wanted to provide more context. But the things that both of you have said, I've actually agreed with to an extent.
Let's move on to the next prompt.
I try to be fair.
We need somebody more progressive for president. Will
oh no.
Agreeers please step forward?
Oh, why did she's having floor? She didn't read the Democrats part. She just read anti-Biden. Apparently she doesn't like more progressive people, even though the more progressive people are the ones that are anti-Gaza genocide.
Yeah, I personally am of the opinion that we need somebody more progressive for president. I am aware of the attempt that Biden has made to try and cross party lines. That's always been who he is historically. He has always tried to be friends with the guys on the other side and try and...
The guys on the other side here also includes progressives. Like he made deals with progressives because he wanted AOC and Bernie to support his re-election campaign, and now that hasn't gone well. So But like he's also negotiated with progressives, the progressives in his own party to do shit like
and get them to see reason. I don't see that being effective when every year the conservatives get more and more conservative.
Well, I entirely disagree with that, but I think there is value in being more moderate with this stuff. Now, arguably that value is lost if the Republican Party just totally refuses to engage with anything and does not play by the same rules at all. But
Progressive president. If it's one thing if he was around before the segregation and actually is making waves, but I don't see much improving. He was part of the time during segregation. He was against the segregation. I don't trust him. I think Biden. He was against the segregating schools, and I've just seen like what people like. For example, my grandmother. What people are working towards. He acts like he's for it, but he's really not. Like he's just not there. And I feel like we need somebody that is a fresh face that actually is conscious, that can look at both sides and take, okay, this is you got some good points, you got some good points, and corporate as a whole, opposed to just pushing the 1%'s agendas.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
I think Biden tries to do that pretty well. I think Biden tries to implement the good ideas from both sides as much as he can.
So I want to jump in because I was able to jump in last time and I had a lot to say. I think that he's the most progressive president in his administration that we've had in a long time. Some would even argue more so than Obama.
True.
I'm not saying I argue that. I'm saying that has been said. He has the judicial bench, which is your federal appeals court, your federal district court, and obviously the Supreme Court, right? We all know he got Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, in there, and she's more than qualified, right? But what we also don't talk about enough is the fact that 75% of his appointees across the judicial bench are women. 65 of those are people of color. Now, you sparked a thought in me, sir, when you talked about the LGBTQ community. Well, President Biden actually has made it so LGBTQ folks can more readily serve in the military without having to go through all of this unnecessary tape because they're citizens and they have that right. No other president has done that. Also putting them in the leading positions of government. No other president has done that. Full circle to this discussion, he does not act alone, right? So when you say he's not progressive, there's things he's tried to push through and he did not stack the court because he's trying to be bipartisan, right? Because then they're going to go back and stack the court. Now, to your point, sometimes you got to just play ball. So at the end of the day, I get it. But I am not willing to have a conservative court. Project 2025 is very, very real. He's not acting alone. There are other branches of government and we need to exercise our right as citizens, and it is imperative during this election because we may not get another chance.
I think it's really important that when people talk about like the Democrats need to go in and win because the Republicans are winning so much and we're not doing enough. I think it's easy sometimes to see when things are bad, but it's really hard sometimes to see when things are actually going in our favor. The Democratic Party has issues, and there are things that I think if you're more progressive, you should be pushing them on. If you're less progressive, you push them another way. But the Republicans are literally tearing themselves apart, and it's hard from the left to see that. But for the first time in U.S. history, you've got people that can't hold their speaker position in the House. That is tragic and hilarious at the same time. You've got I'm pretty sure he was the most popular man in media, maybe worldwide, Tucker Carlson, who gets fired from Fox News because he gets caught lying about basically rigging an election, and then there are leaked texts showing how unhappy he is with Donald Trump being the president. This is your largest man in conservative media that hates the fact that the president is the president. You've got things like January 6th occurring. You've got these felony indictments that he's both facing and been convicted on. You've got a Republican leadership that is praying, as much as you might not see, they're praying for the day that Donald Trump is gone. You've got a man who was so vindictive in Georgia that he didn't support either of their runoff elections because he was so bad that Raffensperger wouldn't plot with him to overthrow the election. So even though it feels sometimes like we're always losing as Democrats, Republicans came in saying they were going to repeal and replace the ACA. They didn't manage to do it. They didn't replace anything. They might have repealed it a bit, but they didn't have that vote for McCain. They didn't pass any major legislation. They got their tax cuts, and that was it. The Trump administration was a failure. They didn't even get their border completely built. They didn't get the money from Mexico. They didn't get anything.
But even more than focusing on what they didn't do, like let's acknowledge what he has done. $400 million to climate change, like that's important. In 50 years, if we don't stop messing up soil degradation, we're not going to be able to have
400 billion.
400 billion. Thank you. No, thank you for correcting me. No, seriously, the largest ever in the president. So like, how much more progressive can you be?
I was just going to say, like, I feel like we lose the discussion of what progressivism is. You brought up the LGBTQ community. Human Rights Campaign goes through a whole like calendar timeline of him signing going against the license to discriminate that Trump put in, him putting in the Respect of Marriage Act that made same-sex couples tax code and benefits.
Removing the Muslim ban.
And yeah, the citizenship for same-sex couples that get children from across border lines that they now have citizenship. Even trans people in foster care, LGBT youth is protected more, and the ACA has been expanded to not discriminate against people seeking gender-affirming care. You have this DOJ taking Tennessee to court for their trans ban. I just don't know what we're looking at when we talk about progressivism anymore with like clean water too, with the IRA, the infrastructure bill. There's so many of these things that we're talking about: clean drinking water, safe energy emissions.
Still don't got clean drinking water.
And that's why he put it forth.
Exactly, $260 billion in investments.
Let's not go down that specific. I want to hear her.
I just want to state, I don't think that any of this is Biden in particular. I do not think that Biden is solely to blame. I'm not delusional enough to be like, oh, well, Biden is the curse of all our problems any more than I think that Trump is the source of all of our problems. I think that Biden is a symptom of an issue that I'm seeing with the Democratic Party, in which we are not fighting hard enough, in my opinion, for specific policies that I'm very passionate about. I'm not saying that he has not made any sort of progress. I actually do believe he has made a lot of progress.
I understand her point there, but I'd like to see her refute some of the really good things that everyone just mentioned that Biden did that were usually, pretty progressive policies. Is she going to do that at all? Or she's just going to say, what happened to universal health care? Why didn't Biden do universal health care?
And I don't think it's a joke for people when we ask them, what's progressive policy do you want? I don't hear the joke anymore. And so I think instead of putting him down in every single turn, we can say, look, he has done this. Look, he has done that. We should go out and vote because of what he has done.
What you said was super valid, but I just, 30 seconds, I jumped in with this is what he's done because what you said is so important.
Well, I think Biden's been awfully progressive. This is the first sitting president to walk the picket line. I mean, unions are a huge deal.
Oh, that's true. Also,
step from Biden.
Especially of unions, Biden, and more accurately, head of the NLRB that he appointed, I forget her name,
He tried to
has
forgive
been really
$100 billion
progressive with a lot of
student loans, got shut
things.
down by Supreme Court.
Is supporting genocide. Agreeers, step forward.
Oh no.
Not hard for you, isn't it?
Yeah, so I take this issue pretty seriously because
All
I
right,
am
let's
a first
do
generation
it. Let's do it. Let's see.
Palestinian American. Both my parents are Palestinian, and I just think that we go in. It's nice to specify terms into what's actually happening, what's going on. But regardless, I more want to talk about the response as opposed to what's going on in general. There's the Israeli-Gaza war. I think that the Biden response has been disastrous. I just feel as though that Biden's administration is not really on the same page when it comes to making statements even about the Israeli-Gaza war, where we have such a confident Biden come up and talk about an Israeli-led ceasefire proposal, and then just 4 days later, 5 days later, you have the UN representative of Israel saying they vow to continue the war. And so it's almost as if, I know that the situation in Israel in terms of their government is already fractured, is already at an all-time high, tensions in the street. You have probably the most active street protest that Tel Aviv has ever seen. It's just interesting to see the inaction of the Biden administration trying to, I guess, kind of put a Band-Aid on a gun.
The inaction when Anthony Blinken has traveled to Israel 3 times and tried to negotiate ceasefire things, and Biden has been constantly pushing for constantly trying to negotiate with both Hamas and the PA. This is also a really big deal because Biden's position is basically, well, Hamas can't rule the Gaza Strip anymore. What we want is a reformed Palestinian authority. Martyr of fun deal. U.S. says Palestinians are close to changing pay-to-slave programs. Yeah, Biden administration has some 24 proposals to reform a much reviled institution, and hopes it will run post-war Gaza. Jesus, the U.S. has near a deal with the Palestinian Authority to end its contentious martyr payments for people who commit acts of violence against Israel. Yeah, not only has Biden done various things to try to pressure Israel to either not invade Rafah or delay delay the initial ground invasion into Gaza, or like various other things that let more humanitarian aid in, to build the pier to allow more humanitarian aid in directly from the sea. But he's also worked with the Palestinian Authority to make sure that a moderated Palestinian Authority can run Gaza in post-war Gaza. Yeah.
Gunshot wound.
Anyway.
That's the best way I can describe it, where you have the pier being built and then you have airdrops going on. But really, I think that the U.S. has
and airdrops too. Yes.
Internationally to put an end to it and to get the hostages home, and then to also just stop the civilian casualties that we're seeing in Gaza.
I would say Biden's cavalier attitude about the whole thing is also very obnoxious to me. Yeah. There's this video of him standing in he's always standing in the weirdest places, but he was standing in an ice cream shop, literally licking an ice cream cone. And these reporters like, Mr. President, how about that ceasefire, man? And he's like, it's like Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, and he's like, maybe next Monday.
He said,
should be coming next. Yeah, and then he gets asked later that week, like I think like that Thursday or that Friday, and he was like, probably not Monday. Probably not Monday. So that to me,
I mean, like, do you think Biden is the one really holding the cards in a lot of these negotiations? Like, when they involved Egypt, Qatar, Gaza, Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, and Israel, like he's literally, like, you don't, like, nobody knows the details of many of these ceasefire negotiations. So, like, I don't know what you want him to do, buddy.
Speaks volumes. I think it's obnoxious. It's not the type of leader I can look up to. And again, I am not necessarily politically educated enough to put a very specific label on it. But I
also, he did secure at least one ceasefire, because there was the Gaza, it was 6-week ceasefire. I'm pretty sure this was negotiated by the Biden administration, the one that already happened. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Netanyahu's here right now. That's why those protests are going on outside of the Capitol. It's like, he's meeting with Netanyahu right now to try to get a ceasefire done.
Cheers from Golden Mayor.
He didn't even, or sorry, not him. Kamala Harris didn't even go to the speech. People are mad that Kamala Harris did not preside over the speech that Netanyahu gave in Congress.
No, it's certainly not right. I know that when Israel started attacking Gaza, the population was 40% children. And I say was because I'm willing to bet it's a lot less now. So yeah, I don't necessarily know that I'd use the word genocide just because, again, I wouldn't say I'm not going to use that. I'm not informed enough. I want to make sure.
Yeah, I can't really put a hard foot down on saying that this is the legal basis that it needs, the international legal basis.
The international legal, like the not the UN, but the ICC has agreed that it is a genocide.
First of all, not the ICC. The ICC didn't rule. That's the ICJ ruled on it, and that's not what they ruled. They ruled on the plausibility of rights. They ruled that South Africa has a plausible right to sue Israel, and that the Palestinians have a plausible right to be protected from genocide. They did not rule that this was a plausible genocide. They didn't rule that it was plausible genocide. Oh, but In January, the ICJ declared that Israel is plausibly committing genocide in Gaza. Not true at all. Their fact check is wrong.
Would it be fair to say, and I'm no lawyer, and many people watching and listening will not be lawyers, but would it be fair to say that the key point that you made your initial order and ruling upon was whether or not there was a plausible case that should be taken on by the court of genocide in the case of Israel's actions in Gaza after October 7, and you quite clearly decided that there was a plausible case? Is it right to say that's at the heart of what you decided?
You know, I'm glad I have a chance to address that, because the court's test for deciding whether
former head of the ICJ, by the way,
to impose measures uses the idea of plausibility, but the test is the plausibility of the rights that are asserted by the applicant, in this case, South Africa. So the court decided that the Palestinians had a plausible right to be protected from genocide, and that South Africa had the right to present that claim in the court. It then looked at the facts as well, but it did not decide, and this is something where I'm correcting what's often said in the media, it didn't decide that the claim of genocide was plausible.
Dude, why do they even have this fact check here, bro? It's wrong.
They also, several years ago, I believe it was the ICC, but I may be wrong, also labeled Israel an apartheid state a long time ago. And I don't,
that wasn't the ICJ did also just rule that Israel is an apartheid state and occupation is unlawful or whatever, in a non-binding decision, to be fair. But that's always been the UN position. Yeah. But the ICJ has never said that before.
I don't think it's asking for too much to just ask Biden to say, like, hey, genocide, bombing civilians, not cool.
Chemical warfare.
Chemical warfare. Like, how hard is it to just?
Oh, chemical warfare. White phosphorus. White phosphorus is a war crime. White phosphorus
say
war crime.
that is wrong. I'm saying joining saying is not enough. Funding the war.
White phosphorus is a war crime. Source made it up. The use of white phosphorus on its own is not a war crime. Arguably, using white phosphorus in densely populated areas is a war crime. I've been ignoring the whole conflict. It's too sleepy for you. Here, white phosphorus. It's not banned by anything. The use of white phosphorus is not necessarily banned under IHL. It may even be used legally as an anti-personnel weapon. The protocol and prohibition or restrictions of that or whatever. White phosphorus munitions are not considered incendiary weapons. Protocol 2 does not ban the use of incendiary weapons, but instead regulates the use under Article 2 in following ways. Yeah. Israel is not part of the Protocol 2 and is not formally bound to its terms. It does not reflect customary international law. Despite this, Israel generally tries to apply its principles. I can't even change anything in my state, let alone my country, let alone a foreign fucking war. I mean, the U.S. can have an effect on Israeli policy. Use of chemical weapons in destruction. White phosphorus is not defined as a chemical weapon because of its intended use as a smokescreen or illumination device. CWC annexes incorporate a list of known toxic chemicals and their precursors. Tetraphosphorus is not listed. As with all weapons, use of white phosphorus is still bound by IHL restrictions. So you can make an argument that some of the ways they've used it are indiscriminate, but the white phosphorus itself is not what makes it illegal. I think if you actually read the report that Amnesty International put out, that's what they argue, because I don't know why these aren't. These are destiny notes. I don't know why they're not under. Oh, they are. Is that it? Okay. I think that's what Amnesty International argue. It's just no one ever reads the actual reports. They just quote the fucking headline.
It doesn't matter if he says, "Oh, I support all the innocent children in Gaza," as long as they're sending money to Ukraine, as long as they're sending money to Israel. I don't know what money they're.
Ukraine. Why are we bringing Ukraine into this?
The contributing to what's going on in Congo. I have to further look into it if I can speak on that. But as long as he and the administration is giving hundreds of millions of our tax dollars to these corrupt countries, or
hundreds of millions of our tax dollars to corrupt countries. By the way, like most of this money goes to American companies. Goes to America. It's a jobs program. That's what it is. It's a jobs program. Like most of this money goes to American companies who provide jobs for American citizens. Personally, I think you should local pill. Yeah, you told me.
Country place. You can't call Israel a country, a state. But Biden continuously keeps letting them. If you're so against it, stop the money to go to.
Fact check. Foreign aid is approved by Congress. The president cannot unilaterally decide he is or isn't going to send it. According to Brookings Institute, when the U.S. wants to support a country and considers it corrupt, it provides the vast majority of money to NGOs, not profit.
Congress try to have the money stop being sent there for war. They put a dock there in Gaza. The humanitarian aid they're giving was not even real food. They're giving them bullshit. If you really cared about the people, he would treat them better.
What do you mean not even a real food? They're giving bullshit. They gave them NREs as opposed to HDRs. So there's MREs, which is these are like what we feed our military, meals ready to eat. But there's also humanitarian daily rations. These are like this is what humanitarian daily rations. This is what's used sometimes for like foreign aid shit. This is like the bare minimum you need to survive, versus the MRE is what we give to our own like soldiers on the ground. They're a lot more nutritious than humanitarian daily rations. So like we're actually going out of our way to give them better food than we technically have to. That being said, we could do more to pressure Israel to have not restricted humanitarian aid, because they did restrict humanitarian aid, and they still do to some extent at least, and prevent trucks from entering Gaza. The land trucks are always going to be more efficient than the pier or airdropping. There was no reason we ever should have had to airdrop anything into Gaza. Israel should have just fucking opened the humanitarian aid crossings to let humanitarian aid trucks flow through. But, yeah. I have no clue. I think I do know who that person is. I think I've seen some of them, yeah.
Look like a retard, go smell kids all day.
Kind of what you talked about earlier in the earlier prompt about trusting the administration. There are facets where you trust an administration, but kind of the inconsistency is what I can't go based on. That's what I take my trust from, is consistency, whether it's a personal relationship or trusting your politicians. And so when it comes to Biden moving a red line, saying that, okay, I mean a ground invasion in Rafah is what's going to stop me from sending over new ammunitions or new munitions to Israel. And then we see that an Israeli tank of videos being posted of them going straight through the Gaza entrance sign. It's hard for me to
That was that was the Philadelphia corridor. That's not like that wasn't a full-on ground invasion. Our position was always that we needed a better plan to evacuate civilians before we supported them invading Rafah, and I think they did end up presenting some plan to evacuate civilians. But they've done it very slowly, in slow phases, with warnings. With warnings to make sure people are evacuated. Yeah, I don't want to just use Wikipedia, but acknowledging only an uptick in Israeli military activity, the United States has gone to lengths to avoid any suggestion that the Israeli forces have crossed the red line. Critics charged Biden, who declared early last month that he would not support an offensive weapons of Israel, launching an all-out offensive or all-out assault on Rafah, has come up against a domestic red line of his own and decided not to cross it, challenging an ally in Israel, which has support for Republicans and many American voters in an election every year. Administration officials keep moving the goalposts when it comes to the Rafah operations. Won't let the Israelis do blah, blah, blah. Then somebody says, well, aren't they doing it? You also have to consider the majority of Americans, especially boomers, still support Israel. So, for as many pro-Palestine protesters, are out there on the Capitol spray painting on monuments, they're not the ones voting anyway. Those are overwhelmingly young people who, even if the Gaza stuff hadn't happened, probably won't vote. Whereas there's plenty of old boomers who support Israel who will vote, and if they don't like Biden's policies in Gaza, they might vote the other direction.
Conceptualize any idea that this is going to stop under this administration. I just have a tough time believing it.
I agree.
Let's bring in our disagreeers.
All right.
Whoever wants to jump in.
I think that the situation in Gaza and Israel is incredibly complicated. I think that the issue when people talk about supporting a genocide or not is they want to make it seem like there is one obvious answer or one obvious way to escape that situation. And the reality is that accepting an immediate ceasefire, even if the hostages do come back, but leaving an entity in charge of the region that just committed the largest terrorist attack in the history of your country, probably a deal that no other country in the world would ever be expected to accept.
So let's give them hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
Well, we should.
Sarcastically speaking.
I wasn't being sarcastic.
Yeah, I don't.
So I think that yeah, if my kids were in Israel, I wouldn't want them being rocketed every single day from the Gaza Strip either.
But do you think that there's, to cut you off in the middle of your statement, but do you think that there's been a change in narrative, at least from Biden's administration?
It's going to be such a shit show.
Israeli officials about whether it's returning the hostages or completely eliminating Hamas, do you think that there's just kind of like how we have Ukraine, I'm sure it's probably going to come up too, about what is the aim in this war, and how can we prevent just civilian casualties in general along with ending a war? Because this can't continue. It can't keep going on.
I think that the aim from the beginning was probably the elimination of Hamas. Obviously, the administration, Netanyahu's administration, his government, they're going to talk about saving the hostages, but it's pretty clear the way they're conducting the war that the goal is probably going to be to remove Hamas as the governing body in that region.
And do you think that that's a goal that's been attainable so far?
I mean, they've caused a lot of damage to the organization.
But then we see in the north of Gaza that there's resurgence of fighting, and that, so you've made your way down the Gaza Strip to the south, and there's still resurgence of fighting, and so it's not being eradicated in the rate that we're being told, or even if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, we won't truly know until the war is officially over, the IDF is withdrawn, and then we see.
So how does it end if Hamas doesn't get eradicated? You know, so
well, I mean, eradication could mean a lot of different things. It could mean that they've lost so much. They've lost so much capability that another organization.
They probably already. The reason why Biden was bored with ceasefire now is that they've lost enough military capacity to not be able to conduct another October 7th attack, at least for the foreseeable future. I think the really important thing here to mention is obviously all these people don't like the. I know Destiny. Yeah. Are you a Destiny stan? I'm not a stan. I do enjoy his content, but anyway, I was going to say, like any pro-Palestine person, even me to some extent, I don't like the blockade, right? The blockade on Gaza that restricts stuff from entering and leaving, restricts people also as well from entering or leaving. If Hamas stays in power to Gaza Strip, not only does the blockade have to stay up, it has to get more intense, because now, after Israel was just attacked and then had a super hard time combating Hamas because Hamas is building underground tunnels and Hamas is getting weapons from these underground tunnels, the blockade is going to have to somehow try to account for how to stop Hamas from getting the materials to build these underground tunnels, which are the dual use materials, they call them, which could be used to build civilian infrastructure and also could be used to build military infrastructure. So the blockade is only going to have to get more strict. Like, the conditions of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are only going to get worse if Hamas doesn't go. According to some leaks, I don't think anything super official has come out yet. There were at least some members of Hamas's leadership that were willing to talk about giving up control of the Gaza Strip in exchange for free passage to Turkey and to I think that was a big thing. Oh, and for money as well. It was like free passage to Turkey. They wanted some extra money. This is like a Twitter leak, so be careful. Twitter leak, I can't verify it. Okay. Security guarantees for the leader, safe passage to Turkey, the return of confiscated funds, and the lifting of bans on foreign bank accounts. This wasn't by Sinwar himself. It was by some other senior official, but people don't think he would have done it without Sinwar's knowledge, at least. So there's that.
The PA with PLO was brought back in, and somehow they're able to govern. It could be that the IDF has some temporary administration there.
And that deal that I mentioned with the PA earlier on as well.
It just seems to allow civilian casualties to
How many civilian casualties are enough for it to be like, oh, we're done?
This is time for a ceasefire.
Why do the Israeli hostages look better than all the Palestinian children? All the Israel hostages that have been released have gained weight. I've seen them starve.
Oh my god, they keep just dogfighting him, and they won't let him respond with the like Dom talking about it, like, how many dead children is enough?
Every day, eating fucking animal feed. Yes, I have. I follow journalists in Palestine. Follow Wizard, no, she's a journalist. That's Palestinian. That stays there instead of leaving to document it. Every single day I watch it and see children being blown up, being women raped and everything. Don't say it's not happening, because it is.
We've been hearing this.
Everybody, I just want to pause for a second.
I don't care.
We know that there are strong opinions on this issue.
Say it's not happening is ridiculous.
I'll take a collective breath.
Yes, sir.
And then we can pick up back up where we left off. Devin, if you want to make a point, and then we can
Sorry, it's like saying Holocaust didn't happen. It's the same bird, different wing. It's a different situation. If you think what's going on with the Holocaust is wrong, and you don't think what's going on with Palestine is wrong, you're a hypocrite. Point blank, period.
I think if the Jews started attacking Hitler with missiles that were being armed by Hitler's missiles, we could say that probably. But at the same time, we're putting so much of the precedent on the IDF.
Haven't you heard about the Warsaw Ghetto, bro? Say it.
And Hamas enjoys support from the Palestinian people. But you were talking before.
Sorry, I apologize. I shouldn't have.
I just think that we should be able to put some responsibility into the Palestinian people's hands. You say eradication, like how do we eradicate them? It doesn't have to be a military objective. There has to be a way to meet in the middle ground.
That's kind of what I'm going
But do you think Hamas is coming where they're operating civilian areas, where they're the ones sending rockets, where they went into a rave and took hostages and raped and killed? Do you think that they're?
I'm not here to justify the actions of any political party. I'm speaking from a humanitarian.
Well, Hamas isn't a political party. They're a terrorist. PLO is a political party. That I recognize.
Separate from the two factions of different entities. My point in saying that was that I'm not in support of anyone in this situation. I'm in support of needless lives dying. Right. So my point is that onus, accountability, action, everything like that. How do we prevent people who don't need to be dying from dying? Is my point.
Do we prevent that by not funding our allies when they get terrorist attacked?
The point is that is there a limit? Is there an objective? Like how I would say about the Ukraine, which I'm in full support of against a Russian invasion, is that we need to have an objective that's attainable as opposed to continuing war.
How many civilians is acceptable to you, Mohammed?
I think no civilians is acceptable.
So that's why war. This is an existential threat.
I mean, like, people don't understand. Like no civilian death is acceptable. Okay, no war can start ever. Then, like literally no war can start ever. Then, like Ukraine can't try to take its territory back because that would mean like there are inevitably going to be some civilians who die in that crossfire. Ukraine shouldn't have even fought back then. They should have just given up because otherwise more civilians would have died by prolonging the conflict. Like what?
So that's what I'm saying. And so at this point, do you think that Hamas has the same capability to cause another October 7th as they were?
Hamas has the capability not to hide within the civilian population and use them as shields. Don't you have any comments about that at all?
I do. I will never support anyone putting civilians in harm's
So you should be hyper-focused on Hamas and the harm they're putting these civilians into.
So my point is being hyper-focused on what I think will cause the most civilian casualties. And so that is the war continuing. So when I know that one party is...
This war ends right now if Hamas gives up the hostages. And
I don't think so. Is that the aim? Is the war's aim to get back the hostages? Because if it is, do you think the war will end tomorrow with all the hostages?
I think it's short-sighted to say that like if the war happens now and civilians are dying, this is a bad thing that needs to stop. Because arguably, if in 2008 for Cast Light, if they would have eliminated Hamas then, it would have been less civilian casualties. People would have said the same thing. In 2014 for Protected Edge, if they would have eliminated Hamas.
So there's an overarching problem.
I'm just saying that well, there is a problem right now.
Joe thinks the Holocaust was a failure in proportionality. No, the Holocaust was a genocide. It goes beyond even a failure in distinction. It's a failure in that's genocide is what it was. It goes beyond even a failure in distinction.
Now one of the big problems is Hamas, but obviously there's more.
The Holocaust is not lawfully directed at a military target. It was the exact opposite.
I'm saying that like if they don't eliminate Hamas now, then what do we get another attack in 2025 or in 2030 or in 2035? And then the attack will be even bigger. The population will be bigger.
But let's put metrics on what the success of eliminating Hamas is. And so do you think that it's been going well so far in that when you eliminate someone, you kind of root them out from where they're coming from? And so the approach from the beginning of the war was a systematic approach from the north to the south. And now they've made it all the way down to the southernmost part of Gaza. And then you still see fighting and resurgence happening in the north. So my point is that if we don't have an aim in this, then when is it going to stop?
We just some hostages like civilians like a couple days ago.
And then it resulted in apparently reported resulted in the death of 3 hostages.
I understand that, but you're asking me what is the aim, and we're trying to focus on the aim, but then you're saying, oh well, we can't have this aim because it led to this catastrophe. At what point in war will...
I'm saying
guys, we've covered your disagreement. Let's pull in Sierra.
All right, thank you. I appreciate everyone's contributions, and I'm really big on listening because at the end of the day, you don't really know your position unless you've heard someone else's. That being said, someone just stated that there is an overarching problem, and I think there is a higher overarching problem. This is my opinion. Now, people may like this, they may not. All the way around here in the circle. For me, personally, I came and sat down because when it comes to what the question was, does President Biden support genocide? He is a seated president right now, and there is a genocide happening.
Logical conclusion of decolonization. Don't fact check. True.
However, overall, right, and there's a lot I can argue about, do I think it's integrous that we push people to Rafah and then attack and we don't stand where we stand on the line? Yeah, I have feelings about that. Do I think that to Don's point, there's a lot of tone deafness? Yes, I have feelings about that. Historically, however, our country has been involved in these type of things for a very long time. And I believe no matter who was in office, like I said earlier, be it a Democrat or a Republican, and most certainly Trump, I don't think we would see a different result. And that's when we as an American people have to ask ourselves. Well,
I think we would see a different result. I think we'd see even more pro-Israel stuff from Trump in office, Trump, the guy who literally said that you have to kill terrorist families. To be fair, he did walk that statement back. Okay. The guy who supported the annexation of Golan Heights. Now, to be fair, Biden didn't renege that. He didn't reverse that decision, but it was still a bad decision. The guy who moved the... What does that mean? What does what mean? Welcome to the stream, Dean Wormer, by the way. The guy who literally moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Yeah. Loner Box is a good Obsidian page about all this stuff. Compare Trump and Biden on Israel and Palestine. Recognize Golden Heights. Oh, he cut off aid to Palestinians as well. We've given like $9 billion of aid. Oh, he's joking around. He's not being serious, but I think the military aid to Israel included $9 billion in aid to Palestine. $9 billion aid to Gaza. I don't know if we would have gotten $9 billion in humanitarian relief to citizens of Gaza and other war-torn regions. I don't know if we would have gotten that with Trump in office. I doubt it. But yeah, well, like Kamala Harris doesn't, as I mentioned this earlier, Kamala Harris, who is the vice president and the leader of the Senate, isn't even presiding over Netanyahu's speech. She literally didn't go to Netanyahu's speech. Like, and Trump is meeting with Netanyahu too.
And how would we like to move forward?
Oh wait, no, it's not. Wait, I'm thinking of Mike Pence. Mike Pence met with Netanyahu for some reason. Mike Pence. I don't know how to spell Netanyahu. And Yahoo. I spelled it right. For whatever reason, I think Mike Pence met with him. I think Trump actually might have as well. Yeah, okay. Requested meeting with Trump. I don't think they had one though.
Because I'm about moving forward. And historically, we can go back and forth about the logistics of what's going on. They are our allies. But when we talk about a genocide, there are millions of people dying in the Congo. And I'm going to continue to say that. But nobody's talking about it because the coal that they're dying for is going in our cell phones. So if we're going to be so morally upset, like, you can see that footage, but historically, if it's not people of a certain color, we don't care as much. So if you're going to be outraged, let's be outraged all the way around. But let's also realize that whether it's the Congo, whether it's Gaza, this is our thing. This is what we do, and how do we want to not do that? And we need to talk about a solution as the people, because our tax dollars are funding all of it.
I think we understand there's a lot of disagreement about what's going on in Gaza right now. Who in the circle leading up to the 2024 election, is this your most important issue?
For me, in context of everything I express, yes.
Partially, yeah. So it's about a tie for me. So I'll say yes, but it's a tie.
And also, this is something that I feel like I was going to talk about in regards to Biden as a candidate. And I know he's the incumbent and everything, but a movement of the uncommitted movement kind of sparked up around predominant Arab American communities, where you had in a swing state like Michigan, which predicted the last two elections, whoever won.
This 13% of people who voted uncommitted was barely higher than Obama in 2012 when he was running for re-election. I think it's the very bottom one here. Uncommitted vote in 2024 was 13%, only slightly higher than the 11% when Obama ran unopposed. Yeah, 2% higher.
Michigan, one of the last two elections, where 100,000 people wrote uncommitted over citing reasons of the Gaza war. So I think that as a whole, this is something that needs to be addressed and needs to be reflective of what his constituents believe. And so not necessarily going into force action this way, but this is a hot topic issue for a lot of people and a lot of places that matter. When an election of 340 million people comes down to a couple 100,000 votes on swing states and getting that to win the electoral vote,
and again,
I think it matters.
But Biden won Michigan by 250,000 votes.
That's what I'm saying is that, and across
100,000 voting uncommitted, it's not going to do it.
No, I mean that's raw numbers, but these are people who are citing that they're voting uncommitted because of citing this. But 250,000.
No, 100,000 people did not.
Vote uncommitted for, along with
100,000 people did not vote uncommitted, citing that. Maybe 10,000 people did or something like.
In Chicago and all that. So that's kind of what I meant.
Are you willing to risk a conservative Supreme Court for 40 years?
For this issue, I feel like
for this issue,
I feel like
really a conservative Supreme Court for 40 years, shutting down every single progressive legislation that passes, Medicare for all, any sort of Roe v.
You're not even risking just a conservative Supreme Court. You're risking heavier support. You're risking heavier support to Israel and a conservative Supreme Court. But like,
wait, anything you guys want, everything's going to get shut down.
This one, it's been shut down already, like you mentioned, for Roe v. Wade. But my point is that I feel like this is impossible for me not to care about this issue so much at this point. Is that I'm from Palestinian origin. I have a Palestinian citizenship as well. So this is integral to me because this is the issue that I care about the most when it comes to American politics. What can I do as a taxpayer, as someone who's educated in this land, who provides patient care in this land? What can I do in terms of knowing my heritage and being a Democrat?
I think it's worth saying too, real quick, just because I heard it said earlier, like whether or not there is or isn't a genocide happening is still something that's highly contested even in the international community. I heard it said earlier that the ICC and the ICJ decided that it was. That's not true. These are still things that are being hotly contested even within the ICC, even within the ICJ. We're not going to know the actual answer to that for some number of years. So if that's like your determining factor on this particular thing, I'd say if you're.
That's why I said I don't want to go into the terms because I'm not an international rights lawyer.
Oh, you should at least mention a plausibility thing.
Okay, can you elaborate on what you're trying to say?
I'm saying if Trump wins, if we risk it and Trump wins, I guarantee Justice Thomas and Alito are going to retire, and Trump will replace them with 35-year-old justices that make Brett Kavanaugh look like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So you will live under conservative rule, and the Supreme Court has the ultimate say in this land. So
Sotomayor is pretty old as well. I think she's 70 years old. She might either retire or die as well.
So posing the answer to that question, I think for
Biden's health is poorer than Trump's. Will you agree or step forward?
Was that health as in like health?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's pretty obvious that Joe Biden is an old man, and I think that's not necessarily an argument against him, but you just have to be real with the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think Biden's definitely slowed down mentally. I think even physically compared to Trump, he's probably a bit slower. I don't think that's a difficult concession to make. Both these guys are, I think, isn't Trump like 79? I think Biden's 81 or something.
Yeah, no matter who wins, they will be the oldest.
Yeah, both of them are still incredibly old. Biden just needs to make it through the election, and then after that, I don't care. So,
like, our voting system should not be like the lesser of two evils. Like, what old senile person do we want sitting in that chair more? You know what I mean? Like, I want a candidate I can rally behind. I want someone I can be confident in. I want someone I can like look to and be like, yeah, that's our president. I'm gonna go to people and talk about how much like, I'm proud to be an American because like, although this is just one part of the whole machine, it's the face of the machine. I want to be proud of it.
People always say that, but like the problem is like any candidate that you can rally behind is going to be someone that I'm voting for as the lesser of two evils. Like if you're rallying behind Bernie, I mean, I like Bernie a fair amount, but if you like, just had an example, if you're rallying behind Bernie Sanders, well, I don't agree with a lot of Bernie Sanders' more progressive points, so I'm going to be voting for him as the lesser of two evils. Versus right now, where I quite like Biden, although he's not running again. You're voting for Biden as the lesser of two evils, versus I'm voting for him because I love him so much.
I agree, but I just think we were spoiled by someone like Obama, who came in and was an incredible speaker and was so articulate.
Doing stuff in the shadows.
But if you look back, it's like it didn't matter how big his mental faculty was. How much legislation did he actually pass? How much did he codify in law? How much did he do like Trump and do executive orders? I love Obama, and I wish that that Joe Biden could speak like Obama. But the difference is of what the person has done, despite the fact that some people are saying that his health is poor.
When we talk about poor health, if we're talking about it in terms of someone who's aging, and that's a natural result, and the reality is we can argue if somebody should be running for president, okay, he's the incumbent. That is the reality. Yeah. So the reality is he's running against someone who was a former president, who is a narcissist, and so who also rambles, who has cognitive dissonance, and it's not from a necessary, well, whether he has a disability, we can talk about that later. But the point is, so if we're just opposing them and we're comparing them, I would rather go with the guy where we know where that's coming from, who also we can look at his policies. If you're rambling and you have social passive behavior, and if you're talking about basically doing things in terms of a dictatorship, but then you're also the type of person that reverts and doesn't even stand in line with what he says when it comes to his own party, that is extremely problematic. And so I know where this is coming from with Biden. I don't know where this is coming from with Donald Trump. And let's also be clear with the fact that that man almost died of COVID after denying it forever. So
let's not get to COVID. I was alive, meant to populate us. Look up.
Well, regardless, the man still almost died.
It'd have to be a different
The man still almost died. And I have yet to see Joe Biden in his age. I have yet to see him have that type of, with his cumbersome schedule and everything and all the stress. I have yet to see that kind of thing happen.
I just want to say, like, Trump is out of shape. It's clear. How in the world could you say that Trump is in better shape than Biden? Is Biden a little slower? Is his gait a little slower? Of course, he's 478 years old, but he is killing it, man.
I think Biden has a chance to win the election. Will the agreeers please step forward?
Oh, good. We all agree.
Makes me so happy, guys.
True. Were you hesitating?
I was. I was hesitating mostly because I still have doubts, but I like to be hopeful.
I think the Democrats have a bad habit of being overconfident to a degree. Like, look at 2016, right? They were so sure about Hillary. They were so sure. When the truth is, most people in like middle America, most people when it comes to like blue collar, like very average people, couldn't stand her, couldn't stand the amount of scandals she'd been in. With that said, though, yeah, I do think so. I kind of picking back up what you were saying. I think I would like to hope that enough people would have good sense, because I've got my reservations, I've got my issues. But the truth is, it's a tough battle, and we need every soldier we can get, as cringe as that sounds.
I don't really see how things get any better for Donald Trump from here. He is a convicted felon. I think it was literally last election saying that even if you're under investigation.
I mean, the shooting was definitely something that got better for him, but yeah.
You shouldn't be running for president. Now he's actually carrying a healthy amount of felonies underneath his belt. There's just so much stuff going on with him. He is such a sideshow. The speeches that he's giving, the things that he was saying about the son and the daughter of the judge, when he followed Laura Loomer's stupid rumor on Twitter and thought that the girl with the Facebook account was, or the girl with the Twitter account was actually the judge's daughter, was making claims about it. Like, I don't see things ever getting better for here from Trump as long as the economy doesn't completely nosedive, as long as something crazy doesn't happen. I think that Biden can only improve.
Do you think those things are diminishing support for Trump?
I think that the reason why it's hard to see it is because I think that these things are widely.
When did they say it? Was this filmed before the attempted assassination?
Increasing support for Donald Trump in increasingly smaller circles. I think that the people that love him the most will love him more and more no matter what you do to him, but I do think he's losing people on the outside who are a little bit over all of the antics.
Roe v. Wade is really pushing people. People realize what's on the ballot, so I am really confident about Biden. That doesn't mean I'm going to lay back and not fight as hard, but I think we got this.
What's $1.9 trillion went to the American Rescue Plan after COVID. It's a very hard thing to come back from, right? And that provided more jobs and relief. It took our unemployment rate from the first quarter of 2021 from 6.3% to 3.6% by 2023. So that's huge.
The problem is, they've done like studies on this. The whole like vibe session thing. You can mention these good metrics about the economy, and like people are beginning to recognize that the economy is doing pretty well. The vibe session is coming to a close, it looks like, but it looks like people care way less about unemployment now and way more about inflation, and they care way more about mortgage rates too. And because inflation is high and interest rates are high, which pushes up mortgage rates, people or just interest rates in general, really, not even just a mortgage rate, but like, just because people care more about inflation and interest rates now, and both of those are rather high, like people think the economy is doing a lot worse than it is. So
being reflective to your constituents, and so that's what I'm saying is that this is my issue. And so I'm not in the matter of being closed off, but it's in the matter of moving in the right direction, like a permanency fighting and seeing that result.
But I think it's a fair way to approach. Like, withholding your vote can be a form of utilizing your vote. I think that's fair to say. Just always be aware of what you're doing. Somebody says, I want to vote for him because I can't support that period, and you have that principal position. That is a defensive. I disagree with that. That's a defensible principal position. But just remember that if you
God, every time he talks, I have to slow the video down. He talks too fast. God damn it, Destiny.
your abstained votes lead to somebody like Donald Trump coming in, it's going to be worse under Trump than it is under Biden. 100%.
And then also, there's the potential that the Democrats draw the wrong lesson from that and say, hey, we're not appealing to people. We need to move more to the right. It could be the case that Democrats draw the wrong lesson from it and don't get more progressive, but actually end up appealing more to centrists and moderates and people on the right. Especially over the like Gaza stuff, because there's a lot of leftists literally saying, I will never, ever, 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 ever vote for Biden. Okay, like if you do that, then like the only option you leave him is to move to the right. Like it's also always possible that Democrats draw the wrong lesson, which you should be aware of.
It's unfortunate, but that is an indirect result, because the reality is he said he might have even done
and
that.
so that's kind of my idea of being uncommitted, is that there's a side that I want to be on.
And I made it very clear. I'm more in alignment with how you guys feel, but I'm also a realist as far as like what we're dealing with here. And I will never again, and many of the things that you said, I absolutely agree with. And again, for my closing, I'd just like to say I will be voting for Joe Biden. However, I do think there needs to be some accountability for what is going on, the tone deafness of all the lives that have been lost. But let's also be clear, this is going on all around the world, and we have supported that too. And we cannot pick and choose, especially when it's people that look like me are darker and no one's talking about it, and it's even more lives being lost. This is not the oppression Olympics. No lives should be lost like this. It's horrific that us as humans do this to each other. Everyone says it's war and policy. We need to start being the country that pays into different policies. But the reality is that's not going to happen under a conservative court, and that is why I'm voting for Joe Biden. We have a two-party system. We need to get more involved with who our local officials are, who our senators are, because let's be honest, Joe Biden is not supporting anything.
Well, look, she's local pill.
What it is by himself. There is branches of government that he has to go through, and that is what we as a people forget. We cannot forget in these elections. We may not have another.
Yeah, you have some words, I can tell.
Look, I can appreciate everybody's passion here. It seems like you got your hearts in the right place, and I'm not upset at anybody. And we're all Democrats. Our party
I
is
love everybody's perspective.
our party's a big umbrella. We allow all sorts of voices. But what I worry about is what I'm hearing from a lot of you guys who are anti-Biden is we're going to hope other people vote. And I'm worried too many people do that. And we got to get serious about this. And we all have to take personal responsibility and carry him over the finish line. I understand, Mohammed, what you're saying. You're withholding your vote or expressing yourself to get your way. That's what the primary's for. This is the end game. This is the last 10 yards. And I'm confident as the summer starts to wind down, more Americans are going to tune in. They're going to start to realize, remember who Trump was. And I think people are going to get behind Biden.
Anyone else?
I'm just. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry, very, very quickly. I was just going to say, to sort of restate my thesis that I was hoping to come here with, it's not that I'm pro-Trump, it's just that I'm anti-Biden. And to be honest, agreeing with you, just anti the way the system works. If I can just say one thing really quickly, the reason my trust in Biden has deteriorated to the degree it has is he was under investigation for the potential mishandling of some documents, classified documents. The investigation concluded that he couldn't be held accountable because he was too mentally unfit. He couldn't remember conclusively.
That's not what the report said. As a prosecutor, your job is to get convictions, even if you think someone is guilty of a crime. If you know that they won't, that the jury wouldn't convict them, then it reflects poorly in your ability as a prosecutor. If you convict that person, and then, if you prosecute that person, it can't end up getting the conviction. They're concerned that whatever special attorney investigated had was that Biden would present to a jury as a well-meaning old man. It was not that Biden was mentally incompetent to stand trial. It was just that he would present to the jury as a well-meaning old man.
And I'm voting locally. I'm not. That is where I have actual power, is in my local systems. But I don't have.
I mean, that's a lot better than not voting. That's fair.
As much power to vote for a president as much as the elected official who gets to say whether or not they want.
Well, I just want to say that not vote for Biden is voting indirectly. Respectfully, and you have that right now. Here's what you're saying is a vote for Trump. That's just what it is. And that is a person who's trying to take the rights of you to be able to vote for your local officials. And he's done that in Georgia. And so this is a nuance why we have to educate ourselves. The way each of you feel is totally valid. I think you all have stellar, amazing points of view. It's very imperative that you're here because you represent large demographics of people that feel the way you feel. And those issues need to be addressed. We may not have that opportunity if we do not vote, because that is a vote for Trump.
All right, we're going to have to end it there. Thank you all for being part of this. Joe, you're even split, so we have to figure out something to get their votes. Thanks, guys.
Beaver Paolo is polarized, apathetic, anxious by politics, anxious about the uncontrollable economic disruptions, or at least somewhat.
Thank you. I really love you guys.
Two of them are local pill. This lady said she was voting in her local elections, and the other one, I forget exactly what she said that I said made her local pill, but aged poorly. Green Dress Girl's not anti-Biden, she's anti-not my grandma. True. Alright. It aged a little.